She was just 9 years old, selling mints door to door in a quiet neighborhood. And then, she vanished. She was the only child of parents who divorced shortly after her birth. Despite the separation, both parents remained involved in her life. Her father continued to live nearby in Spokane, allowing Candy to spend time with each parent regularly. She grew up surrounded by familiarity and support in a quiet, close-knit neighborhood. Candy was a cheerful and curious child who found joy in the simple pleasures of life. She loved the outdoors and often spent her time exploring nature, running around with neighborhood friends, and playing with her dog. Whether walking along wooded trails or climbing trees in nearby parks, she found comfort in the world around her. Candy was remembered as bright, outgoing, and kind, with a gentle presence that made her easy to love. One of Candy's earliest dreams was to join the Campfire Girls, a youth organization similar to the Boy Scouts, but specifically for girls. The group offered activities like hiking, crafting, and learning life skills in a community of peers. For years, she looked forward to the day she could become a member. In 1959, when she turned 9, that dream finally came true. She proudly joined the Campfire Girls, and immediately, this glimpse into Candy's brief but full life reveals a child with innocence, ambition, and heart. Her story begins not with tragedy, but with a young girl's hopes, her daily joys, and a loving community that would soon be forever changed. On Friday, March 6, 1959, 9-year-old Candy Rogers came home from school to her family's modest house in Spokane, Washington. She ate dinner, spent a little time playing with her dog, and then prepared to head out into the neighborhood. As part of her new responsibilities with the Campfire Girls, she was selling mints door to door. Candy left around 4 p.m., carrying 8 boxes. Each girl had a designated route to avoid overlapping territories. So Candy walked alone. By 6 o'clock p.m., her mother noticed that Candy had not returned. With daylight fading, she grew worried. Candy was known to be responsible, and it was uncharacteristic for her to stay out past dusk. Her mother and grandfather immediately began searching nearby streets. Neighbors joined in, scouring sidewalks, yards, and alleyways, calling her name and hoping she would turn up nearby. But there was no trace of her. After several fruitless hours, police were called to assist. They canvassed the area and quickly discovered that Candy had only sold 1 box of mints. This suggested she had gone missing not long after she began. The urgency of the situation escalated. A neighbor reported seeing Candy around 6:30 p.m. on a nearby street, which conflicted with her mother's timeline. She had already been searching by then. A green 1953 Ford had nearly struck him on the same street. He couldn't see the license plate. Later that evening, around 9 o'clock p.m., police discovered several of Candy's mint boxes scattered near a bridge. The finding deepened concerns that foul play was involved. With the light fading and leads unclear, a grim uncertainty took hold. Candy Rogers had vanished, and no one knew where or why. Following the report of Candy Rogers' disappearance, law enforcement began an immediate and expansive search of the surrounding Spokane neighborhoods. Officers canvassed the streets where Candy had last been seen, speaking to residents and looking for any sign of the missing girl. As word of her disappearance spread, the local community mobilized. Neighbors, friends, and concerned citizens joined the effort, forming search parties to comb through streets, yards, and wooded areas. Candy's face quickly appeared on posters, and the media broadcast appeals for help. The scale of the operation soon expanded beyond local efforts. Within days, more than 1,000 individuals participated, making it one of the largest search missions in American history. Spokane police coordinated with state officers, mounted patrols, and search and rescue teams. Off-road vehicles scoured difficult terrain. The U.S. military deployed personnel and helicopters to aid in aerial surveillance. Despite the collective urgency, Candy remained missing. Tragedy struck the search itself when a military helicopter, part of the operation, collided with power lines. The crash killed 3 of the 5 crew members, underscoring the risks volunteers and professionals alike were taking in their desperate attempts to find Candy. Over 750 tips were reviewed by investigators, yet no definitive lead emerged. For 15 days, the search continued without success. Then, a breakthrough. 2 military servicemen hunting in the woods west of Spokane stumbled upon a pair of small shoes. Authorities were contacted, and Candy's grandfather confirmed they belonged to her. A deeper search of the area led to a heartbreaking discovery: Candy's body, partially concealed beneath pine branches. An autopsy revealed that Candy had been strangled using a piece of her own skirt. She had been bound and sexually assaulted. Near her body, investigators found a green car seat cover and a purple stain on her clothing that smelled like grape gum. Despite the disturbing evidence, these items provided no immediate answers. In the aftermath of Candy Rogers' murder, investigators pursued multiple leads, each offering a glimmer of hope that ultimately dissolved into disappointment. The first major suspect to emerge was Alfred Braves, a man who lived just a few hundred yards from Candy's home. On the same day her body was discovered, Braves died by suicide near the area where her scattered mint boxes had previously been found. Inside his car, police found rope and women's hairpins, objects considered potentially suspicious. A search of his home revealed disturbing newspaper clippings about sexual crimes. Even his own wife suspected he may have been involved. Despite these troubling findings, investigators could not establish a direct connection between Braves and Candy's murder, and the case against him remained inconclusive. The tension then shifted to Hugh Morse, a known serial killer with a history of sexual violence. Another lead emerged with Howard Barnett, arrested in 1960 for molesting a young girl. Days later, he took his own life inside a jail cell, leaving behind a cryptic message scrawled in blood on the wall. His wife, stunned by his sudden death and unaware of his arrest, even asked authorities if he had killed Candy. Still, no evidence could tie him to the crime scene. Over the years, 13 individuals came forward, claiming responsibility for Candy's murder. Each confession was thoroughly investigated, yet none contained any information beyond what had already been publicly reported. All were ultimately ruled out as false. Later, a woman came forward with a delayed witness report. She recalled seeing a green car following Candy on the day she disappeared, but once again, the lead failed to produce results. No license plate, no suspect, no resolution. The case remained cold, and with each passing year, the community's frustration deepened. The trail of suspects led only to dead ends. And for decades, justice for Candy Rogers remained painfully out of reach. Decades after the murder of Candy Rogers, the case remained cold, unsolved, and haunting. In the early 2000s, a Spokane detective revisited the file, determined to exhaust every possible lead. Central to this renewed effort was a piece of preserved forensic evidence, a semen sample collected from Candy's clothing in 1959. Though time had degraded the material, modern laboratory techniques enabled analysts to extract a viable DNA profile. Initially, the profile was submitted to national law enforcement databases in hopes of finding a direct match. But no known offender's DNA aligned with the sample. Years passed, and the case lingered once again without progress. Then, in 2021, a new approach emerged: genetic genealogy. Using advanced methods, a private lab attempted to generate a broader DNA dataset from the original sample. Several efforts failed due to the age and fragility of the evidence. But one lab finally succeeded, generating enough genetic data for analysis. Genealogical researchers uploaded the results to public ancestry databases, where they began the process of comparing the unknown profile to thousands of individuals who had submitted their own DNA for recreational or family history purposes. Through this process, the search narrowed to one extended family. Further analysis identified 3 deceased brothers as likely candidates. To confirm the connection, investigators contacted a living daughter of one brother, John Hoff. She consented to provide a DNA sample, and lab testing confirmed a close familial match. With this result, authorities sought and received a court order to exhume John Hoff's remains. His body was buried in Spokane. Samples were collected and tested. The results left no doubt. John Hoff's DNA matched the sample found on Candy Rogers with complete certainty. After more than 6 decades, science had delivered what earlier investigation could not: the name of Candy Rogers' killer. In 1959, John Ray Hoff was a 20-year-old soldier stationed at an Army base near Spokane, Washington. He lived less than a mile from Candy Rogers' home. At the time of her murder, he was a quiet young man whose presence in the neighborhood drew little attention. Yet, decades later, DNA evidence would reveal that he was the one responsible for her abduction, assault, and death. 2 years after Candy's murder, Hoff was arrested for attacking another woman. The incident bore alarming similarities to Candy's case, but at the time, no connection was made. Despite the seriousness of the offense, Hoff served just 6 months in jail and was discharged from the military. He returned to civilian life and outwardly conformed to societal norms. He eventually married and became a father to 4 children. To those around him, Hoff appeared to live a typical, even respectable life. There were no further public criminal charges, and nothing in his behavior pointed to the brutal crime he had committed years earlier. In 1970, Hoff took his own life at the age of 31. The timing was grimly significant. It happened on the same day his daughter turned 9, the same age Candy had been when she was killed. adding a painful layer of irony. Candy had known Hoff's younger sister. In the aftermath of Candy's disappearance, Hoff's sister grieved along with the rest of the community. The revelation of John Hoff's identity brought answers, but also exposed a lifetime of deception and an opportunity for justice lost to time. Case of Candace "Candy" Rogers, officially closed 62 years after her disappearance and murder. For decades, the question of who had taken her life haunted her family, investigators, and the Spokane community. Tragically, neither of Candy's parents lived to see the case resolved. Her father died by suicide in 1963, only 4 years after her death. A loss many believed was driven by overwhelming grief. Her mother, who never stopped seeking answers, passed away in 2006. In 2021, the Spokane Police Department held a press conference announcing the final identification of John Ray Hoff as Candy's killer. Among those present was the last surviving officer from the original 1959 investigation. He expressed heartfelt gratitude for the scientific advancements that brought resolution to a case that had consumed so much of his career and life. His words carried the weight of 6 decades of unanswered questions finally coming to an end. Also central to the closure was Hoff's daughter, who had voluntarily provided her DNA for comparison. At first, she couldn't comprehend that her father was capable of such an atrocity. But when the evidence became undeniable, she accepted the truth. She publicly described him as a monster and expressed deep sorrow that he had never faced justice while alive. The resolution marked not only the end of a long, unsolved case, but also a turning point for a community that had carried the weight of Candy's murder for generations. The tragedy had influenced how parents viewed safety, how police approached child abductions, and how victims' families clung to hope. Though justice was delayed, the truth finally surfaced, bringing closure, reflection, and a renewed belief in the persistence of truth across time. If you want to watch more compelling, true crime stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for future episodes.